So did you ever wonder who the passengers were that came across on the Mayflower? Actually, there were two distinct groups among the 102 passengers on the Mayflower. The Saints, who were the Separatists, later known as the Pilgrim Fathers, and the Strangers, the term coined from the Pilgrims to describe other passengers who were not one of them. They were rather on a voyage mainly for economic reasons. There were also some 30 crew whose job it was to sail the vessel across the Atlantic. The Pilgrim colony in Leiden numbered some 298, but only 35 of the congregation can be identified as having traveled on the Mayflower, joined in later years by other religious sanctions. The strangers were mainly ordinary working people, merchants, tradesmen, craftsmen, soldiers, and servants, who had been recruited to help in building and defending the new colony and protecting the investors' investment. About 1/3 of them were children. However, these divisions were not clear-cut, as like many, they were saints, were also skilled tradesmen, while many strangers harbored their own religious reasons for leaving England. Of those who boarded Mayflower at Rotherhithe, many were not particularly religious and were motivated by no higher ends than the prospect of a better life in America. Among the civil leaders of Plymouth Colony, with no direct religious association with the Pilgrim contingent, were Edward Winslow, Isaac Alterton, Stephen Hopkins, Richard Warren, and possibly Miles Standish. They made up more than half the Mayflower passengers, and they would prove to be crucial to the colony's success. Captain Miles Standish, by the way, was a soldier and a stranger who was heavily involved in many aspects of life in Plymouth Colony. Okay, so those are the people that made up the group that came over to America. So what about their accommodations aboard ship? In addition to a handful of cabins for the Mayflower's officers, owing to the large number of passengers being carried on the voyage to America, especially women and children, it may have been considered necessary to build extra cabins between decks. If they needed, they were constructed. It is uncertain whether it was done in London or Southampton, or after the Speedwell's additional passengers were taken on board at Plymouth. However, most of the men and boys were certainly almost provided with bunks only. Some historians believe that the passengers did not have private cabins on the ship. They were compelled to live in big open spaces between decks, but used curtains to create some privacy for themselves. Some of the passengers probably slept on wooden pallets attached to the walls, while others made hammocks out of cloth, and some slept on the floor or in a shallop. The shallop is the small boat that people would take to ferry to the land. And as for the children in the group, this is rather sad. 7 children came on a Mayflower who had no connection to any passengers or crew, except for one child. Some are orphans, and the City of Fathers of London devised a remedy for those without a home by transporting them to the new English settlement in America. In 1618, 100 children were sent to Virginia, and the following year 100 were dispatched at the request of the Virginia colony. In the case of the Mayflower 7, the children were placed in the care of specific individuals who accepted them as servants or wards. Sadly, only 2 of these youngsters survived into adulthood or remained in Plymouth to raise families of their own. So my friends, I hope you enjoy this quick little video about the people that actually came across on the Mayflower. So until my next video, happy Thanksgiving, and I'll talk to you soon.